everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Beef Upfront podcast here on Pixel Media. It's your host, Ryan Coyle, back for big NFL Big Five games of the week, the Thanksgiving edition, one of the favorite episodes of the season here as we cover all three Thanksgiving games. In the past few years, we've covered the additional best five games after that, but just as we've been saying kind of throughout the season, not the greatest games. So we only got our normal five as well as our three Thanksgiving games to cover, but excited to get into it once again for Thanksgiving. Always a fun day on the NFL calendar. Welcome back, Kevin. How are we?
Thanks. Really excited for this week. A lot of good games on the slate.
All right. So last week, we're recording this on Monday night. We still have the Cardinals and 49ers game, but that wasn't part of our slate last week. So I went 9-8 last week, pretty much my average week all season. I lost my upset special with the Bears over the Falcons, and then lost the best bet with Rams, Saints under. Kev, you went 7-11. You won your upset with the Raiders beating the Broncos, and then lost the best bet of Giants -3. So looking to get back over 500 this week. I'm looking to continue 500 or better. So without further ado, Thanksgiving Day, as always, we started off with the Lions. We have the 7-3 Bills playing their second straight game in Detroit at the Lions, who are 4-6. Bills -9.5, over under 54, 12:30 on CBS.
I'm taking the Bills 30, Lions 23. The Lions covering the 9.5 and the under at 54 hidden. The Bills have had a weird 2 weeks here with the game last week getting moved to Detroit and now staying in Detroit to play on a very short week with a 12:30 kickoff on Thanksgiving. The Bills started out slow last week versus the Browns, but they finally found their foot in after the first quarter and went on to handle the Browns pretty easily. The Lions had an upset victory on the road against the Giants. I think the Lions will come into this game ready and play hard like they always do. Their defense has looked a little better in recent weeks with Aiden Hutchinson playing really well. However, it's still the Bills, and the Bills have kind of found a little bit of a running game now, which has always been the missing piece from their offense. Singletary and Cook have both looked really good recently, and I don't think this is a Lions defense that's turned the corner enough to slow down the Bills, who are one of the top-tier offenses in the league. The Lions, I think, get a backdoor cover in a game, but it's not super close.
I like the Bills to win this one as well. Lions to cover and the under, so all the same picks there. I'll take Bills 30, Lions 21. Shout out to the Lions, though. They were sitting dead in the water at 1-6. They were starting to hear the rumblings of maybe Dan Campbell gets fired, GM Brad Holmes maybe gets fired. And there we go again with the Detroit ownership looking for some new leadership up front. But it seems like they might have saved their jobs and bought some more time, and it looks like they might be starting to hit some momentum and build there. They have 3 straight wins for the first time since 2017, and I think they're in contention for that number 7 seed in the NFC. It's going to be a battle between, I believe, like 5 or 6 teams, and it's going to be whatever team I think gets to 9-8, potentially 10-7 finds their way in. I think the talent's there for Detroit in a lot of spots. It was just a matter of just getting a win, building up some confidence, and continuing on from there. And then when it comes to the Bills, as we know, when they're rolling, they're one of the top teams, if not the top team in the NFL. But they are always good for a few flops each season, especially with Josh Allen. He can be super hit or miss at times, like last year when they lost 9-6 to the Jaguars, who wound up only winning 3 games, I believe, all season. But then, as you said as well, Kevin, with all the strange stuff going on with the Bills, with the snowstorm, the traveling, I'm not even sure if they're staying in Detroit, if they went back home or what. Is this a slip-up spot maybe on national television? This is always like the Lions, like Super Bowl, I guess you could look at it. I'm not going to go as far as say that I think the Lions are going to win, but it wouldn't surprise me if they found a way to pull it off. They haven't had much success, though, on Thanksgiving. Last win was back in 2016, meaning they're on a 5-game losing streak. So they're looking to break that skid. I think that number gets pushed to 6 straight years here, though, as the Lions' 3-game win streak consists of victories over the worst Packers team we've probably seen in a decade, the Bears, who are 3-7 or 3-8, and then a fraudulent Giants team as well. If the Lions are able to run the football, keep Allen and that explosive offense off the field, they should be able to hang around. But the Bills need this one. They're desperate. They need to stay atop of the hunt for the AFC East and the AFC overall. So give me the Bills finding a way to win here, but the Lions get the cover. Second Thanksgiving game. This is an awesome one, especially with the records of the two teams. This is what Thanksgiving football is all about. These are the two of the biggest brands, and it's going to feel weird without Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call for this one. But you got 7-3 New York Giants at the 7-3 Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys -9, over under 44.5. 4:30 kickoff on Fox.
I got the Cowboys winning 30, Giants 17, the Cowboys covering the 9 points, and the over of 44.5 hidden. It's hard to believe that both of these teams are 7-3. It seems like they're trending in completely different directions, with the Cowboys looking like Super Bowl contenders, and the Giants are pretty much being written off by everyone. And I am one of those people writing the Giants off. I don't think anyone's picking them to win this one. The Cowboys just need to protect the ball, and they should win handedly, in my opinion. Zeke and Pollard are a scary duo, with each of them scoring twice against the Vikings last week. The Giants, I think, are finally starting to reveal their true selves. And I don't think Daniel Jones is very great, and the defense is nothing to write home about. It's pretty much just Saquon and Saquon only. And if he may be able to have a little success yardage wise against the Dallas D, but I don't think it's really going to be enough. I think Dak plays well here, and the Cowboys roll on Thursday.
I like the Cowboys to win here too. I like them to win by the same exact score that they beat the Giants in week 3 on Monday Night Football. I like them 23-16, so that gives me Giants +9 and the under hitting 44.5. Just an absolute beatdown by the Cowboys and the Vikings on Sunday. If you weren't watching, they actually cut out from the game to on the national broadcast to go to Steelers Bengals. That's how bad of a beatdown was. It was midway through the third quarter. I don't think it's crazy to say that Tony Pollard is a top 10 running back in the league, and I feel like he just continues to get better and shine every week, whether it's on the ground or in the passing game. And at this stage, he's definitely better than Zeke, but Zeke's still a nice complementary piece that adds kind of a different flavor to that Cowboys offense. So I think for Cowboys fans, you should hope Tony Pollard continues to get the pill and Zeke's only used in bunches. But the Cowboys defense was super impressive in that one as well. Held the high-powered Vikings to only 183 total yards, caused problems for Kirk Cousins in a national TV spot yet again. And now we're back to square one with the Vikings. Are they fraudulent? How far can Kirk Cousins really take them? That's how bad the Cowboys really beat up on them. Giants, on the other hand, are starting to come back to earth. I believe their luck might be starting to run out as the Lions beat them by double digits. And if Saquon isn't rushing for 100-plus yards, this team's going to struggle just to win games due to the lack of complete options in the passing game. And even Wan'Dale Robinson had a nice performance, the rookie receiver in Kentucky. It was like 9 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown towards ACL at the end of the game. So they really have nothing going for them in the passing game at all right now. They have to run the ball and stay patient on the ground in this one. And going forward for the rest of the season, they have no other option since their entire group of receivers are either hurt or just not good football players unless they find a way to bring in Odell, which I think is an overhyped signing to begin with. He's a nice complimentary piece, but people are acting like you're bringing in Devontae Adams there. I think in order to stay in this one, you have to give it to Saquon 30 times against a Cowboys run defense that still isn't that stellar. Dalvin Cook did run for like 75 yards on them the other day, and they give up 136 yards per game on the ground. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win, but Giants find a way to cover in a low-scoring, run-heavy game. It feels like when we've been writing off the Giants for most of the year, they've answered the bell. So I think they cover, but the Cowboys get another win and move themselves to 8-3, while the Giants go to 7-4 and might not be making the playoffs after this hot start. Third and final game on Thanksgiving, we head to the night slate. We have the 6-4 Patriots at the 8-2 Vikings, who we were just touching on. Vikings are -3 in this one, over under 42, 8:20 on Sunday or on NBC.
The Vikings winning by 10, 24, Pats 14. So the Vikings covering that 3 points and the under of 42 hidden. I fully expect the Vikings to rebound here. They had an awful week versus the Cowboys, and the Pats had a classic Bill Belichick versus an inexperienced QB game against the Jets. The Vikings are not the Jets, and the Pats are not the Cowboys. The Vikings offense should be able to move the ball a little bit versus the Pats defense. The Pats offense is not lethal in any way. The Vikings offense is multi-dimensional, and I think Kirk is capable of making every throw. He just needs to actually do it, which is always a big problem. But the Vikings should be ready to bounce back, and I think they can handle the Pats here.
I'm going to take New England in this one to win. I'm going to go Patriots 23, Vikings 20. So Patriots plus the 3, over 42. I'm not going to let a Kirk Cousins in prime time fool me yet again. I took them last week as well as you, and they just went out and shit the bed and just got a complete beatdown. And it's insane how with an 8-2 record, their point differential after losing that game is now -2. That's insane. I think I saw they have like the 16th best point differential in the league now. That just completely boggles my mind for an 8-2 team. But out of all of the Kirk Cousins primetime woes and all that hype surrounding it, Sunday night actually is his best night. He's 4-4 in Sunday night games, so he's 500 there. I think the Pats do propose a pretty tough matchup for Minnesota here, as the Patriots are still limited on offense, but the defense is very good as always under Bill Belichick. They're allowing the fifth fewest yards per game and the second fewest points per game. Um, it is important, I think, for the Pats to get up early in this one, so the Vikings find a way to panic and just go full fledged Kirk Cousins throwing the ball mode. The Vikings are undefeated this year in games where Dalvin Cook carries the ball at least 13 times and 0-2 in the games that he fails to carry 13 times. So that's, I guess, a pretty fine line there where when they commit to him and they continue to run the football, they tend to have more success because that just frees up everything else in the passing game for Kirk Cousins. If the Patriots are able to get up ahead and kind of force the Vikings to come out throwing it a little bit more, even with Justin Jefferson, Thielen, and Hawkinson, that just gives you more opportunities for Kirk Cousins to have some mess ups. So I think Bill Belichick is going to give him some fits on this one on a short week as well. I think it's important to note this is Kevin O'Connell's first Thursday night game as a head coach. I think Bill Belichick has a lot more experience in that regard. He knows how to kind of use this experience to his advantage and has a leg up definitely in the coaching game on Kevin O'Connell and his young staff in this one. So I like the Patriots to win this one, move to 7-4, and but depending on what happens in the Bills game and the Dolphins game as well this week, that they could be tied up there at the top for first place in the division. So I'm going to take the Patriots here over the Vikings as the Patriots find a way to win yet again with a not very talented roster, it seems like, and the Vikings fall to 8-3. Now we move from Thursday to Sunday. Two Sunday games on our slate. We have the 5-6 Falcons at the 6-5 Commanders. Very important game for potentially that 7 spot or even the NFC South title for the Falcons. They're still in that. Commanders minus 3.5 over under 43. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox.
I got the Commanders 24, Falcons 20. The Commanders covering the 3.5 points, and the over of 43 hidden. The Commanders have found new life with Heineke. The Falcons have real issues, and Kyle Pitts' injury. I just heard he's on IR, so he's not going to play this week. He's not going to play for the foreseeable future. They may end up shutting him down for the year. While Chase Young could be back for the Commanders. I like what the Commanders are doing, running the ball with Robinson and Gibson, and then allowing Taylor Heineke to make a few plays when needed. There is a clear difference in the offense with the Commanders with Heineke over Wentz. They just looked flat with Wentz, and like they just weren't excited to be out there, where Heineke just was like a jolt to that offense. The Commanders are definitely good enough to beat bad teams, and I think the Falcons are a bad team. There are rumblings of Mariota seeing the bench soon and Desmond Ridder coming in, getting a chance to show what he's got. I don't think it's the worst idea, but either way, the Falcons are not going to go anywhere this season, in my opinion. So I got the Commanders here.
Yeah, I had a take at the beginning of the season. I think it was during my NFC East preview. I said I think Wentz suffers another injury. Heineke comes in, and Wentz eventually retires at the end of the year. And I'm not going to be surprised if it happens by the end of this year. That's pretty amazing what Washington's been able to do with Heineke at the helm. I'm going to go Commanders winning this one as well, 20-17. So I'll take the Falcons plus that 3.5, like the hook there, and then we'll go under 43. It's one of these games where I didn't think would be on our big five at the beginning of the year. I thought the Commanders would be a 500-ish team, and then I thought the Falcons would be like a 3 or 4 win team competing for that number one spot. So kudos to them for being in the playoff hunt still at this part of the year. Both these teams in the battle for that final wild card spot, and the Falcons, like I said, still competing for the division title. It's amazing how Heineke has brought this team though from the dead. And I don't know if Washington will commit to him long term, but I think someone will, whether it's even like just a 2 or 3 year deal whenever he becomes a free agent. I'm not sure if it's after this year or not, but someone's going to pay him just because he's proven to be a consistent winner. Then they'll look back and see that he's just like a flash in the pan type guy. He always seems to come back to earth, but someone's going to pay him if history repeats itself, which we've seen with backup quarterbacks in the past before, like a Nick Foles. The Falcons have been super up and down this year. Looking at their schedule, haven't strung together consecutive wins since September, and are only 1-4 away from home this year. Going on the road in this one. Washington also has a top 10 rush defense, only allowing 103 yards per game on the ground, and that's really where Atlanta makes their money with Mariota, Cordell Patterson, Algier, throwing all those different run looks at you. That's where they've had their success. I think that's going to be tough against Washington, where, like you said, Kev, Chase Young might be playing. He was added to the 53-man roster this week, so that just boosts up to that defensive line even more. And then Kyle Pitts being out, this is just a really challenging game for a team that likes to run the football with limited options in the passing game. That's why I'm leaning towards the Commanders in this one, but I do think the Falcons have a shot, so I'll pick them to cover. Not a pretty game at all in this one. I think Washington just finds a way to eke out another win like they've been doing all year with Taylor Heineke. Fifth and final game of the week, we have a flashback to last year's AFC divisional game where the Bengals upset the Titans. We have the 6-4 Bengals at the 7-3 Titans. Bengals minus 1.5 point favorite, over under 42.5, 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS.
I got the Titans winning a close one, 21, Bengals 20. The Titans covering the 1.5 and the under of 42.5 hidden. This is the game I struggled with the most. I went back and forth, and I'm going to take the Titans here. I think Derrick Henry is obviously the key, and the Titans go as he goes. However, Tannehill has looked better recently, and if Treylon Burks can continue to develop, he had a nice week last week, and he was doing pretty decent before he missed a few games with an injury. The Titans could have end up found in the missing piece they had when they traded A.J. Brown away to the Birds. The Bengals do have some injuries with Chase's hip. Mixon has a concussion, and T. Higgins missed some time in the game this past week after landing hard after a catch. I believe Mike Vrabel. I believe in him and the Titans. I think they'll be ready to go in this game. Joe Burrow could have a great game and carry the Bengals to a win, which would surprise no one. But I'm going to bet on the Titans here.
Yeah, it's another line where I'm a little bit confused as to why the Titans aren't favored in this one at home. Better record than the Bengals. Bengals have guys missing injuries. It could be one of those things. Again, where we might be falling for a trap from Vegas like we did last week with Vikings against the Cowboys. But I'm going to go with the Titans in this one as well, despite that. I'll take them 24-21. So Titans plus 1.5, over 42.5. Like I said, this is a rematch of last year's divisional game where Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times and the Bengals still found a way to win. This is just one of those pure like revenge games where the Titans, I think this is one of the games that they've had circle on their calendar the entire year, wanting to kind of at least try and avenge that loss. I know it won't make up for it due to that being in the playoffs, but still, this is one where you want to get them back. And I think Mike Vrabel is one of the better motivating coaches in the entire NFL. I think he's going to have the fellas ready to go, knowing what happened last year as a 1 seed. And they went 1 and done in the playoffs thanks to the Bengals. Ryan Tannehill was the one to blame for last year's loss as he threw 3 picks. He's got to bounce back in this one. I think he's going to make sure he's on his A game. With Jamar Chase not likely playing again in this one, it did say he is returning to practice, but I doubt he plays. I think it's going to be hard for the Bengals to muster up a lot of offense against this really good Titans defense. So I'm going to have to take the Titans here. It's a bit of a toss-up one for me, but with them being at home and that revenge factor element, that's going to push me to picking the Titans. So give me Titans 24, Bengals 21. So Titans plus 1.5 and over 42.5 hits there. Now we move into our best bet of the week. Last week we went 0-2 on these, so hope to get back on the winning track. I'm going to stick with another under in this one. I'm going to go under 35.5 in the Broncos-Panthers game. Statistically, when you look at all the metrics and everything, these are probably two of the 2 worst offenses in the league, I would have to imagine. And they both have really good defenses, which is a shame. I think despite the quarterback position for Carolina, I think they have some nice, intriguing talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball for a head coach to go to next year. And the Broncos, they have a lot of talent on the roster. Who knows if Russ will be able to bounce back, but I think Nathaniel Hackett has a good chance to be 1 and done. I think the Broncos would be a pretty attractive job as well. So I like to bounce back next year, but I think they just continue to have poor seasons as they have. The Broncos scored 20 points in every game they played this year, just 20 points. They would be 9-1. That's how good the defense has been and how bad the offense has been. I think this game is just going to be so ugly with terrible quarterback play from both sides. I was even looking. There's an alternate total on FanDuel, 25.5. You can get that at plus 400. I think this is going to be like a 13-10 game. I might even take that alternate total of 25.5 on Sunday, depending on how I'm feeling. Plus 400, that would be pretty good. And I think this is just going to be such an ugly game. Under 35.5. Love this. I feel like Broncos under each week has got to be the best bet going forward, potentially.
I got the Dolphins minus 12 versus the Texans. The Dolphins are coming off the bye while the Texans last week had a tough go at it versus the Commanders. I'm not going to overthink it. I think Tua and the offense can put up points. I don't think Davis Mills is going to be able to take advantage of a defense that is able to be scored on.
All right, now we go into the upset special. I'm going to take the Jaguars of Jacksonville this weekend at plus 175. They are playing host to the Baltimore Ravens. They're 4-point underdogs in this one. I think the Ravens are always in for a few clunkers each year. If they're not able to get the run game going, they're forced to pass the ball. Um, the defensive coordinator on the opposing team dials up a good game plan to stop Lamar Jackson. It really stalls the offense if they're not able to get that run game going. As we saw last week, they only put up 13 points on the Panthers. I just touched on that. They have a pretty nice young defense, though, so maybe last week was their clunker. But Jacksonville, it seems like every once in a while is able to pull off some pretty eye-popping upsets. And the Ravens have won 4 games in a row, so I think they could be due for a loss coming up. You rarely see teams win 5 in a row in the NFL. You look at last year with that Bills upset by the Jags, and then they beat the Colts, who are at 14-point favorites. Seems like going to Jacksonville, it's not really known as a hostile crowd, but teams usually struggle down there and don't have their best football. So I think the Ravens are due for a loss. The Jaguars get kind of one of those eye-popping wins that we usually see from them. Didn't really love much on the board this week for the upset special. This one is the one that stuck out to me the most. So Jags at plus 175. I like the value there too.
I got the Browns plus 130 versus the Bucks, who are 3-point favorites. This is the game before Deshaun returns. The Browns need this to keep their season alive for Deshaun when he comes back to hopefully revive and get them into the playoffs. They can run the ball, and the Bucks have not been great this year. The Browns can win a close, tight-knit game here at home.
All right, well, that'll do it for NFL Big Five games of the week, the Week 12 Thanksgiving edition. Any last second comments before we head out, Kev?
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Hope everyone has a good Thursday.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy the football, and we will talk next week.